Hello and welcome back to World of Warcraft and another challenge mode gold guide. My name's Lumin and right now, Gate of the Setting Sun. This was the third instance that we attempted, the third gold that we got, and I would say at this point we weren't that great at doing the challenge modes yet. We were still kind of getting used to playing together as a group and how the challenge modes worked and how much crowd control you need, how many cooldowns you need to use and all the rest. So this was a messy run, but we managed to get it done. Let's get started. Now these first packs here, you can actually pull them all together at the same time, but after wiping countless times trying to pull them all, we decided it makes more sense to split them up, pull them in two. So we pulled the first, what was this, 4 of them here, then we pulled the next 5 together, and that just worked out better. It was much less chaotic because in these little encounters, you got to dodge the bombs as often as you possibly can. If you get hit by the bombs, the healer's going to have a really tough time keeping you up, if the healer can even keep you up. So you got to watch out for the bombs that are being dropped by the mobs that are flying over, up above you the whole time. It's the same as in the normal and heroic modes, just it all does a whole lot more damage. You can quite easily judge where the fire is going to go because it always goes in this cross shape every single time. It's exactly the same, so you can see where it's going to go. And the demolishers also drop bombs at random at certain points. So I guess you want to keep them crowd controlled if possible, but that's just a general rule in challenge modes. Keep as much as you can crowd controlled or stunned or disabled or whatever. Then the only other really important thing to watch out for here, other than the bombs, and again, the bombs are the main thing, is the smoke bombs that get dropped by the infiltrators. They cause line of sight issues. So if you're standing in the smoke, you can't see out. If you're standing outside, you can't see in. And that means that if there's a tank in the smoke and a healer outside, they won't be able to interact. You won't be able to get those heals. But that's okay if you just keep kiting around. And you're going to want to keep moving anyway, regardless, because there are bombs dropping all over the place and you're going to want to move out of the way of them. The best thing to do is probably to get your DPS to all just watch out for it. Call out if they see a bomb, say move left, move right, whatever, come here, go there. Just communicate. Now this first boss, kind of simple. There's nothing too special going on with Saboteur, Kip to Luck. It's basically the same as in normal and heroic once again. The bombs get dropped at random around the room and the boss casts sabotage on one of your members. When you get sabotage on you, the best thing to do is just to run into one of the corners of the room so that the arms of the fire, the cross, doesn't actually interfere with where your party members want to stand. This is also where we chose to use Time Warp, just so that we could get this boss down quickly, and so that we could have Time Warp up for the last boss again. Generally, you're going to want to try and use Time Warp twice in every single challenge mode, except for the really short ones. But this fight is more just random and chaotic than actually difficult. It'll just take a couple of tries and you'll kind of get the hang of it. Get the hang of how much you need to move around, where you need to move to, and so on and so forth. Overall, I'd say the first couple of trash pulls, much more difficult than the boss itself. And when it dies, you should try move immediately. Unlike me, it's like floundering around there trying to find the exit. You go out the northern exit every time. Now, the instance itself has 4 bosses, 25 enemies required. You do actually get the enemies if you just run all the way through there. It's not much that you're going to want to skip. I think you skip 2 mobs in total. These ones you're going to want to kill here. They drop the smoke bombs again. Same as before. You got to watch out because it just kills your line of sight. And then these wind shapers over here, they do a thing called wind blast, if I'm not mistaken. You got to interrupt that because it just does a lot of damage. And, well, it's a lot easier and a lot quicker if you can just keep that damage off your members and your healer can help DPS perhaps. Same as always, same with every single pull. You can start moving once you've got 1 or 2 of those left. The infiltrators don't do a particularly large amount of damage themselves. So as you can see here, when there are just 1 or 2 of them left, we started moving already. On this bridge here, there's a little trick where if you jump, you can avoid being stunned. But you literally save like 1 second doing that. It's not a big thing. It really doesn't matter. You can just run straight across there. These next packs, or at least the packs that contain the rages, I imagine could be a bit of a problem for certain groups now. If you've got a hunter or a druid, then that specific class can actually dispel the enrage that pops up on them. I'm not sure what the enrage itself is called, but it's kind of deadly if your tank isn't really well geared or doesn't use cooldowns at the right time, or your healer perhaps can't keep up. They do a lot of damage. They also have a cleaving attack, so you're going to want to face them away from your group. And the melee DPS just, well, they got to be careful. Again, that's just something that I would say about pretty much every single encounter in every single challenge mode. Now with this next group, this is where we chose to skip 2 mobs. We didn't need these 2 for our mob count, our final mob count for the gold, and the Windshaper dies the quickest. So we chose to kill that one. We sapped the one Rage, the other one's just wailing away at me here. I could have stunned it. In hindsight, that probably would have been the better choice, but it didn't really do that much damage to me. I think, however, with groups that don't have a priest healer, you might want to crowd control both the Rages, then kill the Windshaper, then move up, because you don't actually get out of combat until too late. So the only person that was able to really drink up on the elevator ride there was our healer, because she used Spectral Guise to get out of combat, then used the Restorative Ambers, so that's something to keep in mind. Now on Striker Godok here, I can't do these names, seriously, I apologize about the pronunciation of the names, I'm just not very good at it, but on this boss, he does Impaling Strike, he does Prey Time, and he does a Strafing Run. He also drops these acid bombs all over the floor. I mean, it sounds like a lot, but this is such a simple boss. When he does the Strafing Run, you just don't stand in the fire. When he drops the acid bombs, you just don't stand where they land. The ads themselves are super easy to kill. They don't do a lot of damage at all. I think that for the most part, you can have all your DPS just damaging the boss as often as they can. Even our healer here was smiting the boss when she could, and you just have to, I suppose, as a healer, watch out for Prey Time. DPS as well, because if you know it's coming, if you know it's on you, sometimes there are ways of getting out of it or mitigating some of the damage or whatever, but Prey Time is basically just the boss picking up one of your party members, doing a bunch of damage to it, and then putting it down again. If your healer keeps your party members topped up, it shouldn't be a problem. I don't think it's even enough damage to kill a party member from full health, so, you know, it shouldn't really be a problem at all. Now you'll see here we were actually already about to kill the boss, and then he starts another strafing run. I think if you had slightly better DPS, and our DPS was better going into the final few challenge modes because everyone improved their gear a little bit, everyone just optimized their builds a little bit, but if your DPS was a little bit better, then you could probably kill him before he starts the next strafing run and save a whole lot of time, because the boss is dead. The boss literally has no health left. If we had done a tiny bit more damage before it took off again, before it started its next strafing run, we would have saved a good, I don't know, what, 15 to 20 seconds. Not that it was necessary. Again, not that it was necessary. So the boss died over there, all on his lonesome by the cannons. We just had to wait a little bit for the fire to dissipate, and then you gotta get your fastest DPS. This is a nice little trick that saves a lot of time. You get your fastest DPS to just hoof it to the torch, to the brazier that you got to light up ahead there under the gazebo. You can see it in the distance, and our rogue was the one to do it with sprint and cloak of shadows and all the other, you know, fancy tricks that rogues have. Could get across there quite easily unharmed, while your other members just spam click on the cannons to make sure you shoot down the bombardiers. It's obviously also just a good spot to take a break, drink some mana, whatever, get ready for the next fights, which are these. This pack that we pull here, it's just a couple of Windshapers and then a bunch of Rages, and it can be tricky if you don't interrupt the Windshaper's spells, which is like Gale Force and Wind Blast, the two of them. They both do a lot of damage, and if you just have a good stun rotation, it shouldn't be a big problem. The Rages themselves, they also do a ton of damage. I used Lay on Hands there, I used Guardian of Ancient Kings there, I obviously had Divine Protection up the whole time. It's crazy. I used as much as I possibly could because they do a lot of damage, and you can do this differently. Like if you're really short on time and you want to pull that pack of trash with the commander over here, Commander Ri'mok, you can, because the commander actually does this attack called Frenzied Assault, and this is for those that didn't realize one of the bosses. He doesn't really look like a boss, does he? He does Frenzied Assault, which doesn't differentiate between friend and foe. It damages everything out there, but for me as a paladin tank, I'm actually kind of happy having these little swarmers, the little ads attacking me, because it helps me just generate free shields to throw. It's kind of nice. As any other tank, I guess you would probably also appreciate it. I'm not sure how the other tanks work. I know most of them do like being hit, but there you go. You can decide what you want to do with that. If you don't like being hit, if you don't want all these little ads running around, you just lead them into the Frenzied Assault. They get killed by it. Simple as that. But once you kill the boss himself, then everything else despawns, and that's that. Done and done. Now we're sitting on like 4 minutes on the clock. Well, it's not exactly 4 minutes, but you get the idea. We are in a good position, and we're approaching the final challenge, final real challenge of the instance. Dropping down without dying. These next two rages here, you can just run straight past them, doesn't matter. Obviously, it's a bit of a problem if they're going to knock the levitate off you, which your party members would cast. So you can use levitate, slow fall, divine shield, whatever. There are countless things you can do. I think you can even just jump down. You can see our healer took some damage there, some falling damage. I think she might have just cancelled her levitate a little early in the hopes of trying to save a bit of time, which didn't work out too well. I tried to do the same thing. I ended up cancelling slow fall and not levitate and still falling slowly, but whatever. Now, the Hammer of Light that I cast there, I missed my mark. And because of that, I had a bit of trouble trying to get these protectors off our Warlock, but our Warlock did an admirable job at running away. The protectors themselves, this first group of ads here, they don't do a lot of damage before they enrage, and they only enrage when you kill one of them. And that's when they get really, really dangerous. And this is where we made a big mistake, which didn't cost us the instance or anything. Like, we still got our gold time, but it's something that would have easily been avoided if more attention was paid. You know, if I had saved my blinding light for this group and just stunned them right before we killed them or whatever. But when you kill one, all the others enrage, and then we kill another one, all of them enrage some more. They get more and more stacks of this vengeance buff on them. So they end up doing way too much damage and killing you really quickly. Now I'm going to talk about the boss in just a second. Lastly, watch out for the whirlwinds. And the next ad that comes is a Swarmbringer, which you can just fear or stun or just keep disabled. So Rygon, the boss itself. He keeps doing a battering headbutt while your two best DPS should be jumping up using the artillery cannons to get up to the weak spot to DPS it as much as they can. So you put your two best DPS. I think that sending close range DPS makes more sense for the most part because, you know, it's a safer thing for them to do. They don't need to worry about getting close to the boss or whatever, but you send them up there, they kill the weak spot. Once the weak spot's done, he gets the broken carapace debuff on him, then you can actually damage his body proper. And when that happens, he also fixates on one member. You should just, with all the space available to you, be able to run away from it. It's not really a big thing. You should also stay away from the boss's body because he does a stomp which will stun you if you're in close range, and I guess that will be a problem if you are fixated on and you gotta get away and is kind of close to you already. But you'll see here that we managed to get away from the fixates relatively easily. We got time warp up right at the end and we managed to kill the boss on the second fixate. And that's that. I mean, it wasn't that difficult. Really, the last boss here, even with all the mistakes we made, ended up being a breeze. So you just damage him down. You leave this Swarmbringer on your tank. The healer will have to heal you a little bit here and there, but if your tank is decently geared, if your tank can just use a disable here and there, stun or whatever, it should be fine. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the gold run on Gate of the Setting Sun. It was one of the most difficult ones for us because we spent a lot of time on it. It was kind of frustrating, but again, I think that's just because it was one of the first that we did. As we progressed through, these things started getting easier. We started doing them with less effort and less time, and that was great. Let me know what you think about the run itself, about the time that we got, about the mistakes that we made, and all the rest. I'd love to hear it. Thanks for watching, give the video a like, share it, and do all that other good stuff. Most importantly though, happy gold run on Gate of the Setting Sun. Happy that.